Welcome to Make Your Money Matter with Brad Barrett, the show that aims to change the way you think about wealth management. Brad is a certified financial advisor, established radio host, and author of Retire Right. He is a managing director and partner at One Capital Management, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm managing over $4 billion for clients across the nation. Brad and his team are dedicated to helping clients protect and preserve their assets so they can reach their investment and retirement goals. And now, your host of Make Your Money Matter, Brad Barrett.
Welcome to Make Your Money Matter. I'm your host, Brad Barrett. I'm also a managing director and partner here at One Capital Management. And today on the show, we're going to be talking about 4 reasons why you'll likely blow up your retirement plan. But before we get started, make sure to go to our website at onecapital.com. You can click on our media tab. You can download and subscribe to the Make Your Money Matter podcast. You can also download and subscribe the podcast on any platform where you listen to them, whether it's Spotify, SoundCloud, the Apple iTunes app, or maybe Google Podcast. Leave us a comment, leave us a review. It's always great to hear feedback. And with that, life never stops, right? And sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad, but it never stops changing. And if you think about it when related to a retirement plan, a retirement plan is all about your needs and your goals. And really, when I talk about with clients here is we should plan to adjust as our landscape shifts. A good, well thought out investment and retirement plan really doesn't start with how much money you have or how you even invested just yet. Rather, it's the numbers and the strategies that are following your needs and your goals. For those of you who listen to the Pension Attention podcast each week, or if clients are listening, I speak heavily about this. And guess what? If life never stops happening or changing, it's best to be prepared when it comes to things like changing your retirement plan when life changes. I'm going to talk about that today. 4 specific reasons I've seen in many years of doing this, that I think are important to focus on when it comes to a retirement plan. And I want to share this. I'm a long way off from retirement. I've shared with many of my clients, and people are like, I'm not sure in what I do for a living that I'll ever retire. I love what I do, and I think as long as I have a cognizant brain, I want to be out there and helping people manage money, diversify assets, plan for their financial future. Like, that's something I want to do for a long time. But if I were to be candid with you, Veronica, my wife, and I, we talk about it all the time. I'm pretty sure my quote unquote retirement plan has been blown up like twice now. One time at one point in my early 20s, I was thinking, my retirement plan is going to be living by the beach, and I'm going to surf every day. I'm going to do my work, and then that's what I'm going to do. Obviously, meeting my wife and having kids changes that plans, right? And that's good. My second one was, through the pandemic, my wife and I, we went to Hawaii. I have family there. My family's from there, so we spent a lot of time with family, which was really a great thing. I said, I'm going to travel back to the mainland. I'm going to do my work, and here's where I'm going to retire. We changed that as well. And so, I'm sharing this simply to say that a lot of you listening and watching here, you'll realize that, we change often. We evolve. And so a retirement plan, in a way, if you think about it, has to evolve. And what I mean by when I say blowing up your retirement plan, it's more like replanning. So when I say these 4 things are going to blow up your retirement plan, it's really more about replanning. You adjust your plan to reflect your new situation and desired future. I think if you really pause for a second and think about where you were 5 years ago, heck, even 1 year ago, right? You'll realize that you've evolved as a family, as a person. Maybe there's promotions going on at work, whatever it might be, you've evolved. And so if you think about it, when we set a static retirement plan years ago and we think, I have it planned out, I'm good. Well, there's a lot that's changed, and a lot of things that get added to your life, good and bad, and we need to make sure that we adjust for it. And so again, it's adjusting to reflect new situations and desired future. And then you got to take the form of various modifications, right? Spending more or less money, moving funds from one account to another, delaying retirement, pensions, whatever it might be. You want to look at that, and all of which is done and is better done with the help. And I'm a biased person here with this one. It's with the help of a financial advisor who can professionally revise your plan to better suit your new retirements, your annual updates, your ever so changing lifestyle. I mean, look, take it from a man who knew quite a bit about blowing things up, Dwight D. Eisenhower. He actually said one time, plans are worthless, but planning is everything. It's impossible to know, I think if you think about it, right? It's impossible to know exactly how your retirement will unfold. We can plan all day long, right? But as Mike Tyson once said, right? Everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face. Life's going to throw stuff at us. So we need to make sure we have a good relationship with someone that allows us to adapt and move around with the life-changing events. So with that, here are 4 reasons, I think, why you might find yourself reaching for the proverbial dynamite, if you will, and why it's best to have counsel and an advisor to help you along the way. Number 1 is this: retirement reality, okay? So your retirement reality doesn't always meet your retirement expectations. I mean, a lot of retirement planning, if you think about it, relates back to our life. We had these expectations, but reality and expectations are sometimes mismatched. Disappointments, maybe in the gap between expectation and reality, that's how some people find retirement at first. Maybe sometimes a disappointment. Maybe you're let down because you really loved your job. Maybe you're let down because when you were 25, you had this goal in mind of having $1 million or some number there, but it didn't exactly hit that number. Whatever it might be. I mean, after all, how will you know what retirement's like until you live it? Like all things in life, right? You have to dip your toe in. My 7-year-old son right now, we're talking about things, and he's in first grade, and we're going through sports, and we're going through all that kind of stuff, and he really loves the sports we're playing. He loves basketball and baseball. That's his jam right now. But when we move back here, and with the adjustment to school and learning new kids, he's been on 2 different baseball teams and a new class. He's done exceptionally well, but every time beforehand, he's nervous, right? And we all still have that innate in us. Things that are new are uncomfortable. And that's okay. That's like our brain's natural way of telling us, like, hey, you've worked somewhere for 30 years and now you're going to go to retirement. You should be scared. Be scared, right? Your brain's telling you that. But again, how will you know what it's actually like until you live it? Now, you can find a gap between expectation and reality in your retirement lifestyle just the same. I mean, for example, you may have a million things you want to do in retirement only to find that actually none of them makes you feel as happy as you expected. Could happen. But the gap, if you think about it, and what I deal with, is often financial. There was a 2021 Gallup poll found more than 3/4 of workers expect to rely on part-time work as a source of retirement income. Pretty wild if you think about it. However, 85% of retirees say part-time work is not a source of income at all. While people generally are living longer nowadays, it's not unreasonable to expect to continue working longer too. So yet, once in retirement, many people find a disinterest, maybe an unexpected health issue or a lack of work opportunities keeping them from doing so. So in that case, you'd have to revise your plan to make up for the income shortfall. This is where you want to make sure that you talk to your advisor and make sure your plan involves, retirement plan assets, being in concert with your pension or any other income you have coming in, whether it's from a rental or Social Security or whatever it might be. Setting expectations and making sure they match with reality is really important when you look at your retirement plan. And I think, how do you prepare for that, right? We shouldn't count on, retirement funds that you might say, I want to get to this number, and that to specifically materialize. Because over time, that number, again, as I've shared often, if you retire on a Friday, barring a national holiday, markets are open on Monday. So, the same time you had working, God willing, you have in retirement. So this whole idea of retirement being this finish line, I challenge that, because the reality is it's just an end of one season and a beginning of another. And if you think about it, when people talk about this whole short-term, long-term view of money management or investing, to me, I've shared this often here on the show, is that anything less than 2 years is short-term. So if you think about it, if you're really planning for retiring, being in retirement for only 2 years, yeah, we can think short-term. We can find CDs. We can find some cash for sure. But I don't think I've ever done a plan in 18 years for anyone that's planned a retirement that only lasted 2 years. So I think it's important that we set our expectations and match those with the reality of where you're going to be with your family. And then again, continually update those as changes happen. Number 2 is identity. Now, you'll notice on 1 and 2, it's a little bit more of a psychological aspect I'm bringing here. Because as I shared before, retirement planning doesn't always have to do with numbers. I think when someone says, oh, have you done your retirement plan? Or are you working with Brad and One Capital doing your retirement plan? Probably the first thing that comes up is you think numerical. And then the reality is, equally as important, as I share often, is your quality of life, your goals, your objectives. And a part of that is an identity. And believe it or not, once you enter retirement, you almost can forget who you are a little bit. I mean, that's because a psychological shift takes place leading up to, and I think during retirement. It can be for better or for worse. Okay, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. And actually, there's research on this. There was research published in the scientific journal. It's called Current Psychology, and it actually suggested that workers who identify strongly with their job but have few social interactions outside of work struggle with post-career identity change. And I share this because I have walked countless individuals from working years to retirement years, and depending on the job and depending on where you're at, it has a lot to do with your identity. Again, not right or wrong, just something to make sure you talk with yourself about, and make sure you speak with an advisor who can talk with you, who has experience in those areas or understands the workforce that you're coming from. That matters. Now, fortunately, retirement can be long enough to not only explore what you want to do in life, but also what you want to be, right? It's why many older adults try new hobbies. They launch businesses, they embark on second careers maybe. It's possible to create several new identities, if you will. I mean, the caregiver, the traveler, the athlete, whatever you want to call it, over the course of your retirement, all of which can change the way you spend and even live. And so again, the adjustment at the end of the career heading into retirement might be another adjustment you make to retirement plan. I had one client who, was always a music fan, never really, was able to do much of it while he was working, but he's basically a full-on rock star now. He's playing shows every week. He has a band. He's been doing it for 3 years, and that's his retirement goal. And to him, when I talked to him about it, he's like, yeah, it's always been there with me, but my identity was working at the time, taking care of my family. Now my identity is, I kind of identify as a musician, And so it's kind of a cool way to, in one sense, reinvent yourself. And I'm not saying it has to be for everybody by any means, but you also want to plan and prepare for this. Now, how to prepare for this, right? This specific topic of, new identity is certainly you should consider trying new things. That's always a good thing. But the most important step to me may be to get comfortable spending money on things you enjoy. It might sound weird to you coming from an advisor, but my clients listening right now who've actually gone into retirement with me know that I've said this to them, that it's almost a naked, insecure feeling when you stop the income coming in from your job and then you start taking money from your savings. It's ironic because over your entire career, that was the whole goal. Subconsciously, you were taught, okay, I'm working, I'm saving, I'm investing for my retirement. Well, the idea that you do that for is to build this mountain and then ultimately come down the mountain. So when someone like me comes and says, okay, great, we have your distribution rate. We're going to send this to you on the 15th of the month so it matches up with your pension and your Social Security. And you're like, whoa, that seems weird. All of a sudden, I'm paying myself. Is that okay? Am I gonna last? Is it going to sustain my life? Friends, that's why you do a financial plan. But being comfortable with that mentally is half the battle.
Stay connected. Get frequent updates on the show. Follow Brad Barrett and Make Your Money Matter on most social media platforms. And catch full episodes of Make Your Money Matter streaming now on our YouTube channel. To schedule your no-obligation appointment, go to onecapital.com or call 805-410-5454.
There was actually a survey, believe it or not, from the Employee Benefit Research Institute. It actually surveyed 2,000 Americans aged 62 to 75. They found that just over 4 out of 10, so basically 43% of respondents reported that they plan to spend down all or a significant portion of their assets in retirement. Now, hopefully you can strike a balance, okay, that's the idea with the plan, between managing and enjoying your wealth. Of course, financial security is always crucial. We always want to focus on that. You don't want, it's an expensive new hobby or a new venture like maybe working on old cars or running a business to put your retirement fully at risk financially. But you don't want to make a costly mistake in retirement because you don't get to save it all over again. So I understand that mentality, but you also don't want to miss out on opportunities because you don't get to live life all over again either. So a good financial plan, a good financial advisor will help you find that balance. All right, number 3, your life changes. In a big way, by the way, okay? Life can always find a way to get messy. Can't you agree with that? I think no matter what walk of life you come from, whoever's listening right now, life can get messy in different ways for different reasons. No matter how much money you have or how old you are, working or retired, maybe the kids move back in, we lose loved ones, we find new love, whatever it might be, our life, your individual life changes and evolves. And major life events can force people to almost wholly reconfigure their plans for the future. I mean, like things like even a divorce or a death in the family, or, kids moving back in or coming back out, or grandkids being born. I mean, a lot of things can happen, but it can create a lot of financial challenges that we need to make sure that we adapt with a plan. So how do you prepare for your life changing? As a part of your retirement plan may include what happens to assets like upon death. As an example, we here at One Capital Management talk about estate planning, and I actually go through it and discuss it around legacy planning. What and who you want to leave it to, how we want to leave it. We go through all of those stages, right? It's a part of the process as we go through some things, and to make sure that your wishes are fulfilled and your loved ones are protected. We keep beneficiaries up to date, and we do all of those kind of things. It's common for people, I'll say this, to name the beneficiaries and forget them. So we necessarily may not want to change them unless it's through a divorce or a death, but we also want to maybe add to them. Maybe it's grandchildren being involved. Maybe it's an updated trust. So keeping up on those has a lot to do with certain changes when it comes to your life and your retirement plan. And then lastly, I want to talk about the world. I've mentioned this before, I think a week or two ago, that, there's a big difference between worry and concern. And although they sound the same, they're not similar. Worry tends to have us focus on things that we can't control. And concern actually has us focus on things that we likely could control and take action. And, when I talk about the world changing, some of it we can't control. Actually, a lot of it we can't control. I mean, just take the events of what happened this week. I mean, how terrible that is. And it just reminds us that, God's in control. And there's reasons behind it, and it's not for us to understand sometimes, and it's really, really hard. It really is. It's hard for me. My wife and I had a really tough week. I'm sure many of you out there did, and it's just hard. And sometimes, there are weeks where, decades happen. The world changes dramatically quickly. I mean, just take the pandemic, right? I mean, that's a great example. I mean, from geopolitical conflicts to technological advances, I mean, there was basically massive changes that will probably and likely forever alter the way we live now and then in retirement. So how do you prepare for something that you have no idea when it's going to happen? I mean, you're probably thinking like extinction level asteroid impact kind of change, right, Brad? The world changing. I mean, sure, it's if you think about it, it's impossible to prepare for cataclysmic events, but it's possible to think about how the world could change years from now and create some contingency plans, and then really fitting those into your goals and objectives, your beliefs, and your morals within your family, and making sure that your retirement plan matches those. And as I say often, this is a great example of making sure your assets that you have, liquid and illiquid, are working together. You don't want to necessarily lock up your wealth in illiquid assets when there's always going to be a chance that you may need to access funds quickly as the world changes, as your life changes, as all of them mentioned today here on the podcast. And I want to put a bow on today's show with kind of discussing, a little bit the meaning of wealth. When we talk about these things and the psychological aspect here, if life can be so uncertain, and we can be certain there will be uncertainties, then why make a retirement plan in the first place? I've actually had that question asked to me before. And, you're thinking, what's the point of sacrificing some things today to save for a future that we don't know will come to fruition? My answer always is going to be options. I'm not saying what's going to happen tomorrow, and I don't think anyone is. And I share this often. If someone's telling you they know exactly what's going to happen in the market tomorrow or what's going to happen by lunchtime today, please run, because they're crazy, okay? The answer will always be options. You create and follow a plan to grow wealth, because wealth helps you pivot in life. It helps you adapt to all the things I mentioned today, because you want to adapt to it painlessly and seamlessly as possible. Chris Rock, I've kind of always loved him. He's just a funny guy, right? Comedian. He actually said something a while ago that wealth is not about having a lot of money. It's about having a lot of options. And I couldn't agree more. It's about options. It's not about a number. It's not about pumping your chest out or really matching your identity to how much wealth you've created. And please, friends, don't look over the fence, because comparison is the thief of joy. Money is about options, nothing else, nothing more. It's to provide for the family that you want to have, and to hit and do the things you want to do while here on this earth. And the reason above show that having a lot of options is priceless when you think about planning. Thank you for listening to Make Your Money Matter. Remember, before acting on anything discussed today, speak with a financial advisor near you about your specific situation, or if you'd like our help, you can reach us at 805-410-5454, or again on our website at onecapital.com. And always remember to make your money matter.
The information in this show is educational and general in nature and does not take into consideration a listener's personal circumstances. Therefore, it is not intended to be a substitute for specific individualized financial, legal, or tax advice. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a final decision.